Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Chantele. And we're here to recap episode 19 and 20 of Australian Survivor.
These are some doozies, you guys. But
Doozies.
first, if you're new to this channel, please click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. My girl.
I'm sorry.
Lost my girl.
Sorry, Sarah.
It was gonna happen.
I'm sorry, Sarah. We had a feeling though. I love Haley. I love her taking risks. I love, seizing a moment and trying to go in and take an opportunity to make something happen, especially with her wanting to win the game. But I think that she misplayed a little bit. She had such a good relationship with George. George was telling her everything. George was doing so much. I just think that she got a little bit messy, and with her intentions of trying to get George out, she didn't really see that it was going to come back and bite her in the butt. And it was a misstep, I think, in the execution.
Yeah, I can agree that she, I think the move was fine and I still support the move, but she needed to, hold Nina's hand a little bit more. That's where I think the misstep was. The
And she
aftermath.
actually said that in an exit interview where she wished that she had spoken to her right away.
Yes, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Nina in this episode. Well done on Nina's part. But let's start at the top here of episode 19, where they're coming off of this tribal where Haley just switched one little vote and shifted the energy. It's the first time George didn't have 100% control, and Haley sent Sean out. She's talking about her low-key game, lying about her vote. And this is what I love about Haley, playing in the shadows.
Playing in the shadows and hearing George being like, I told you it was Nina, and we know that it was Haley. Like, it was the first time we really saw George not have any idea what was actually going on. And like, Haley really had the upper hand here.
Yeah, I mean, Nina and George are just straight up having a spat because George is going to come at Nina like a George will, and Nina's just not having it. She's like, no, literally wasn't me. So Nina first is going to talk to Haley one-on-one off.
Like, I know it was you. I'm like, whew.
Yeah, Nina's like, hey, hi, you. And Haley doesn't deny it, but she doesn't really add much here other than, hey, let's talk tomorrow with Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I would be like, if I were Haley, hopefully I would be like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean for it to look like it was you, the one that turned here. I'm really sorry to put you in this position, but I do want to work with you. I think that this gives us an opportunity to get some power to want to continue this conversation in the morning with Simon. I think she needed to just recognize that Nina was taking the blame for this move. Just a little recognition here. And I think that Nina would have been okay with it. But now Nina wants to throw Haley under the bus.
Sure. If you're not giving me anything and I'm just taking the heat,
Like,
which
why?
Again, in Haley's exit interviews, Haley was like, had never planned to pin it on Nina. She was going to be honest with George. And had that happened, I think everyone would have been fine if she was just like, hey, George, I did that. But because George jumped to the Nina conclusion, Haley just like, ooh, hiding in the background. But
Those
yeah,
shadows.
Nina's going to come straight up to George here with the mission to throw Haley under the bus and reveals she knows about the Set for Life money.
Absolutely. He's like, well, how would I know about the reward that you won?
Ooh.
And he's like, oh, Haley's the leak. Haley's the leak. Like, he was so shocked. I think he was also hurt, but I think he was so shocked. And he does apologize, though. He said, I'm sorry for accusing you of voting out Sean. And so I like the fact that at least immediately he said sorry for like how he was treating her. And he at least rectified it to a certain extent in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she had the perfect little, bit of information to help him see what was really happening here. George is going to tell Liz first and loop her in. And I think in this moment, I was like, oh my God, has Liz just completely been reeled back in with George? Like, she doesn't seem
as mad. Well, she does say Haley's a snake.
yeah.
I think that she feels safer with George, right? Like being out on her own. Um, I feel like she knows that George is going to take her pretty far into this game at this point. I think that
Mhm.
she thinks that George thinks that he could beat her in the end. So, like, he's going to probably want to take her as far as possible. And so I just think that she's just doesn't know how much work it takes to like stay in this game without him. And so I think
Right.
she just prefer to have him there.
Yeah, I didn't realize that she was going to be able to let it go so quickly. But yeah, she is just like all in on George. What? Haley's a snake. Let's get her out. She's just like right there with him. We see Haley talk to Simon. He's
Talk or massage? Sorry.
were they
She was
massaging him
like
at this point?
massaging him. Yeah.
Look, gotta take care of that puppy,
Yeah.
He clearly knows it was her, and he's like, thanks.
Thank you for
Hey, what's
saving
up?
me.
Yeah.
But I think that there was a part when she was giving him a little massage thing that George saw. I think George saw that.
Mhm.
Somebody walked by and I remember like clocking like, see, like you shouldn't be, why are you so touchy with Simon after you didn't save him, you voted him out and you're shocked now that like he's still there. Like it would make it very clear if I were George that like she must be working on him in more ways than one.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty obvious that Nina wasn't lying even further here.
Right. Yeah, I think once you get that, you can have blinders on and be like, oh, because he saw something, he saw Nina's behavior, and he's like, Nina, Nina, Nina. But then, like, once the blinders are removed, then you're like, oh, now I'm seeing all the clues
Yeah.
that point in this direction, right? Once you
Mm-hmm.
have that information. George and Liz are going to talk here. George is hurt again. She didn't need to do this to him. She didn't need to do this. And her game is too self-centered. Those were two of my quotes I wrote down. That I was like,
I mean, hypocrite is made for George. It's only George's world where things can go. He can do whatever he wants, and he
yes,
doesn't need to uphold anything. And if anybody does anything to him, he calls it out. We know that that's part of George's charm or lack
yeah,
of charm or whatever. But they are friends in real life. And in some of Haley's exit press, she said that like we are still really close friends. She's like, I'm getting married in a couple weeks. He is coming to my wedding. We're very close. And so I do also understand George being really hurt. She even says like she knew that George wanted to sit beside her in the end of this game. She knew
right.
that. And
Yeah, it is interesting to sort of see, like, I think we knew that they were friendly, but I don't think I really, like, George somewhere in here is like, we talk weekly. Like, I talk to Haley all the time. I didn't realize how good of a friends they were. And so you completely understand that he's genuinely betrayed by his friend, right? And I always remember he's a Pisces moon. Like, he feels those things deeply because his friendship with her is important. And we saw that early on when they weren't on the same tribe. Like, he's sharing information from the get-go. He's like,
mhm.
Haley's my girl. Can't wait to work with her.
And he still even calls her Queen Haley all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. But Haley, had a separate thought of like, yeah, we're friends outside of the game. In the game, he may want to sit next to me. Good for his game, okay. But no, I don't want to sit next to him.
Right.
Interesting to see the two perspectives. We kind of see this periodically on different games when people come and play with relationships,
Hmm.
and you never know how it's going to play out.
Very true. I was a little bit sad for George here though, because it sometimes it hurts when
Yeah.
someone that you are working with that's your friend that you just didn't really think that you had to worry about them stabbing you in the back. You're like, and they were going to, or they did,
Right.
and so yeah,
Right.
it would hurt. It would suck, and I'd be out for vengeance myself.
Yeah. All right, a reward challenge. We're going to stack some blocks while on a beam. You're going to win a night away. Haley was in the lead. Liz and Simon were right behind, but the wind takes out every single person went down.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a type of reward that I saw Liz and Shawnee kind of a reward here, where they're going to be doing a spa, so you know that there's going to be definitely luxurious products and probably food and bathing and lotions and smells. And so I was like, in my head, I was like, Liz is going to be winning this one. She is the Taurus of all Tauruses. I feel like this would be incentive. It's kind of like KFC was incentive for George. Spa day is incentive for Liz.
Absolutely. I was rooting for Haley or Liz to win this, but Liz is like, please give it to me. Give it to me. And she and Matt are going to take the lead at the end here. And Liz is going to be able to pull it out.
Woo woo! I'm like, Taurus and luxury goes hand in hand.
Hand in hand. She's all about this. She gets to take two people. The first person she's going to pick is obviously George.
Mm-hmm.
But the second person is Nina.
I thought that this at the beginning was so like, oh boy, like I thought it was outing them potentially working. Like I just thought it was a little bit too bold of a move.
Yes.
I wasn't sure why she did it, and so I was excited to hear her reasonings behind pulling Nina into this reward.
Well, I get that she's doing it off of the new information that Nina has revealed that Haley is the mole, as George was calling her. But I think it was such an obvious, the fact that this wasn't 1,000 red flags to Haley confuses me.
Yeah.
I feel like this was an obvious, not great strategically because it's obvious, but I understand, hey, I want the three of us to have this time together and bond. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, I definitely thought it was a misstep on Liz choosing Nina, and I didn't know how she was going to spin it to make sense to me.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I was happy that Nina gets to have a reward because I want to see Nina play well, right? I don't think she's been playing the best this season so far. I was giving her more credit last season when she played and she got taken out early. And so I was just kind of like, I want to see her play well. So hopefully getting in with Liz and George at this point will allow her to start making good decisions or playing well. And so that's why I was happy that Nina was being pulled in here. But I just thought it was a misstep on Liz's part.
Agreed. This is a great opportunity for Nina, and I think she handles it very well. Obviously, now we're at the spa, and Liz is over the moon. She's feeling her Taurus self. She's all about all of the luxury, all of the pampering that is this reward. They are going to make a final three, a top three here with Nina, Liz, and George.
Yeah, the Jacuzzi Alliance is coming, but they have brownies, they have a bed, they have a Lebanese spread, they have champagne, and I'm sure it was Liz that says, if you're going to get rid of someone from the game, you might as well look good doing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's all about it. So Nina says, like, she has a path to the end now. Which is true. Like, she has not had a great game, and not that George is the easiest person to work with. At least she
has an opening.
Yeah, exactly. George is a bit upset with Matt too. We're learning a bit more here. The fact that Matt didn't reveal
anything. Yep.
That Haley had said the set for life thing is concerning George. They talk about how Haley is the target or Simon, depending on who wins immunity. And they have to make their plan here that Nina and George will continue their spat. They have to have their story straight for this.
Well, the one line that I put a star beside was Liz saying, you could bring Simon a piece of cucumber and say it's an idol. Like I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, they were like, could we bring a fake, a green stone or something? And they were like, a cucumber will do it. Like, that's a pretty good joke. Yeah. That's a
I
good
was
one.
like, she does not respect this man as a game player at all. Liz also says to Nina, "You can thank me in many ways later, Nina."
Yeah.
And I was like, I do love these little threats that like Liz and Shawnee even said that. Shawnee said a similar threat to, I think it was to Flick. And be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you can thank me later," and Flick didn't thank her later. So,
Mm-mm.
yes, Liz does learn from Shawnee here by saying, "You can thank me in ways later, Nina."
Yeah, that is the game. I help you, you help me.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you
Mm-hmm.
pay me back. Back at camp, um, Haley and Simon are feeling like it's not good that they're all at the spa together. But then Simon, oh my gosh, to Matt and Jerry, let me tell you why George needs to go.
Oh boy.
He almost has like a little spiel. He's like, here's why George needs to go. And they're all like, not the right time. And then Simon says, okay, thank you for your time.
But like, I understand trying to influence somebody and being like, listen, like, George is out in front making all these moves and you're not getting any credit for it. But I don't know if coming from Simon, just like how he's just making them feel like crap about it. Like I think that both Jerry and everybody that's still left in camp feels like they're making their own moves and their own decisions. And the fact that he's kind of making Matt like feel like really inferior. I don't know. I just felt like bad for them. Bad for Matt, because I think Matt thinks that he's doing the best for his game because they have a further down the road plan. Like Jerry and Matt plan on taking George to 3, Matt
Right.
winning that final 3 head of our immunity,
Yeah.
and then taking out George out of the game. So they have a plan. And so
Right.
for the fact that Simon is just kind of like poo-pooing their intentions and where they are in the game because it's not suiting Simon's game, I just felt bad for them just to hearing that, whether it's true or not.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, because Matt and Jerry have, and I think this is actually conversations later because it's later that Simon is like making more of a fight about it. But I feel bad for Simon because Matt and Jerry have a plan. Like they have absolutely put this into place. Simon doesn't know that. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't even understand the game well enough to realize that they probably have a plan or whatever. So I feel like every time Simon talks, Matt and Jerry are like, yeah, we know. That's why we made a final 3 and then a final 2 on top of that. And we're going to cut him. Like,
Yeah.
we're good, sir. Like,
Yeah, we got our plan down. We're getting
yeah.
to the end.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and someone says later, like, you just haven't been in the loop. You have no idea, which is so true. These people have plans. Like, they know what they're doing in the end game. Simon hasn't even like been close enough to figure out his current game, much less an end game. He's so out of the loop.
Well, he did try to make a final 2 with George a couple episodes ago. So.
Oh, he's trying. He's trying a lot of stuff here. Haley is like, I don't even know if I can train Simon. Like, I don't even know if he can be my puppy dog. Like, this is actually a lot of work. And Simon is going to try to figure out a way that he can control the game. So the way that he does it is dump out a bunch of rice and eat up all the coconut and papaya.
But like, what did he think that this was going to accomplish? Like, oh, who, like, everybody's gonna be mad, or like, but he didn't throw it all out, so
No.
they might not notice.
Right.
Like, does he just want some dissension and some chaos? Like,
No,
I
he
just
just
didn't
doesn't
really
want them to
understand.
eat as much. He wants to eat more. That's how you win
Oh, that's it? Just eat more?
challenges. If you have more, sustenance inside you, you do better at challenges. So he's leaving them just a small breakfast.
Okay, well, he should have left nothing if he's gonna get creative, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just talked about this. Was it last week or the week before? But like, because when Liz and Shawnee were eating rice, we both agreed, like, go for it. Do you get more food than everybody else? Just don't get caught, right? Like what Chappie's did was too far.
Fair.
So I saw Simon doing that, and I'm like,
I didn't really think of it of him eating more. I thought he was trying to create chaos. Okay, that's fine.
Well, he said, he was like, I ate up all the coconut and papaya, so I'm going to be filled, and they're only going to have a little bit of rice. so they'll be hungrier and not do as well as the challenge. And I feel like that's all fair in a game that's not fair.
I think it's all fair. I really was not thinking of it as like him giving himself more sustenance than everybody else. I thought he was trying to piss people off and create dissension in the tribe. Okay, so he had.
I mean, it wasn't nearly as bold as Jitia.
I guess that's the way I'm thinking that it was supposed to come across. You know what I mean? Like, what's the purpose? But yeah, you're right. I didn't either hear or acknowledge what his actual intentions was.
All right, let's see. Okay, day 39. They wake up at the spa rehearsing their stories, how they're going to talk to Haley, how they're going to cover all of this. And the camp wakes up and Haley's like, I guess it's a small breakfast. So those are the two little moments we get at that point. And then we go to immunity, where Liz is glowing.
Glowing. And George is allowing people to smell his armpit. I mean, George likes luxury as well as a Libra. So, you know, maybe
feeling their Venuses there. This challenge, you have to build a fire and then you have to fill a drum with water to weigh down and uplift your fire and burn a flag. Have we seen this before?
I think we've seen parts of this before in, I think, U.S. Survivor or both. I don't know. I can't remember which is which, but we definitely seen them running with water coming out of a bucket and then having to put in another bucket that's filled with water. I've seen that happen before. Maybe though it just like cuts a rope. I don't know if I've ever seen the fire on the other end.
Right. I don't think I've seen the two together, which I did find interesting and fun to watch. So I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah. Matt is going to be the first one to sort of get his fire going and be able to run out and start getting water.
Which is, I mean, I was rooting for Matt here a little bit. As much as we need to have Simon to kind of root against or just to be a part of the mix, I kind of, I'm good. I've had my Simon fix at this point. I'm like, we can... He's gotten through like 15 episodes more than I expected. Like, I've got my fill. So I didn't want him to win. I was hoping that at this point, Matt was going to win.
I'm definitely rooting for Matt. I'm still rooting for Simon, but I'm definitely rooting for Matt as well. And I thought it was really interesting here that Liz straight up is like, I'm going to help Matt. She stops building her fire. She starts to run out and get water. And she does say to Nina, should I go help Matt?
Which I thought was like, oh my God, she kind of outed that they are like kind of working together. I'm like, did anybody else hear that? Like, is she mic'd? Did we only hear that? Like, I definitely noticed that she said that quite loudly, it seemed.
Yeah. Again, Haley. She obviously messed up. But now Simon, he's going to start getting his water. So Matt and Liz are working for Matt. Simon is the only one working for Simon. Both of them are pretty darn close here at the end. Their fires go up to the flag. But Simon is going to take the win.
He's a better fire maker. He's won immunity making fire twice that I can think of off the top of my head right now. Was there any more fire wins that he's had? No, the rest have been balance, right? It's like balancing things. But Simon's really great at these individual immunities. So, I mean, in his first season, it's great that he didn't get this far because he would have been winning a lot. And so, yeah, because he was good.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, Simon won again. Great. So we're going to go back to camp now. We see Liz and Jerry talking, and Liz is just kind of quickly updating him that she and Jerry and then George and Nina will put their votes on Haley. That's the plan. Jerry, true to Jerry form, is like, got it. Done.
I really like Jerry. I mean, I think that like he asserts, what he wants at times, and he's agreeable. And I think at this point, I think he could win against Matt at this point. I was saying it beforehand, and we're thinking like, oh, maybe Matt, because he would be a little bit more of like a challenge beast. I think people might respect Jerry's game a little bit more, and even more so now, because it seems like he made the decision to keep Matt in the game. He made this decision to go and start working with George. He made the decision to completely go against the original heroes. And so it just seems like he's just made some more moves. And so I like Jerry, and I kind of don't mind where he is in this game, because he doesn't appear to be a threat, but he is a threat to win.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah. I wonder, that would be interesting to see, because he definitely does have some things he can mention at a final tribal to spin his game to look good. But I think Matt does too. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't love Jerry? Like, he's adorable. So everyone likes him, right? So George, Haley, and Matt are talking here at first on the beach, and they're kind of giving the whole Nina story that they had rehearsed and prepared to Haley, and they talk about splitting the vote with Liz and Nina, putting Matt and Jerry on Liz, George, Haley, Liz on Nina.
Well, and also what I really liked about this little convo was like when Liz joins, and immediately, I mean, I didn't think she did a good acting job personally, as like someone that watches actors all the time, but she basically said that the reason why she chose Nina was she wanted to prevent Nina from getting an idol. And so that just seemed to be enough for Haley to just go along with this new plan, and that she's still being roped in, and that nothing had been outed or changed. I think that there was some clues in how Liz responded here. Like, oh, she immediately comes in and has like this perfect story, and how she delivered it, I thought it was a little bit like too well constructed, but she didn't pick up on any of this.
No,
I was worried.
Yeah, I genuinely was like, okay, Liz is not doing a bad job. Like, she's coming in here with like authority, which is a good way to sell a lie of just like, oh yeah, no, whatever. But I don't think I would believe if someone was like, I just took her so she wouldn't find an idol at camp, because often there are advantages at rewards. So that to me is not a reason. That's the problem I have with this story. But if you hear from George and Liz that like, oh, they were fighting and bickering, like I might buy into that. But yeah, the hints are there. This is weird. And I just kept waiting for us to cut to Haley going, that doesn't add up. They're lying to me. And we just never got that.
I thought it was coming as well, because I mean, I know we have all the information, so we can be like, oh, that was a lie. But I just thought that Haley would have picked up on it for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so then after that, let's see, Haley and Simon are going to talk, and Haley is like, look, if we can get Nina on board, then we have the 3 votes to get George out. And at this point, Simon's of course like, yes, please. But Haley's like, you have got to not be Simon. Can you just chill and not do anything?
I mean, he has to just be himself, but like also play that he wants to know where the votes are going, but he's safe. Like, I mean, he should have just been like, I guess you guys are not going to tell me where the votes are going, so I'll just vote for whoever I want.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he should have maybe done.
Okay.
I think at one point, doesn't he go up to George and say like, so how are we, like, are you going to tell me how we're voting? And doesn't George say like, nah?
Yeah. He's like, y'all want to tell me how to vote? And George is like, no, I'm good. I love it. It's like, okay. Here's the problem, guys. When Haley tells Simon, look, if we get Nina and we do these 3 votes on George, that's because Haley doesn't have the right information.
Right.
She does not have the numbers correct. And so I am not being convinced by the editing that there's even a possibility of this, because I know what the real numbers are.
Well, I think though where the editors were trying to make you believe is that Nina was going to go along with the plan, because Nina ropes Nina in, because if Nina, whatever Nina's planning on doing, like that would be a vote taken away from whatever. No, Nina was supposed to be the vote, right? So Haley's vote being taken away means it wouldn't be. What were they doing? Oh my God, who was on who?
They
There's
would have
2 and
still
3.
had Liz, Jerry, and George on Haley, even if Nina went with
So it would
Simon.
have been 3-3 and then a tie and then.
Right. And so Nina knows that just gives them a tie. There's no way Nina jumps over.
Unless she thought that Matt
Do
would
a
be able to be pulled in as well. We just never saw that.
Yeah, so that's information that just wasn't going to happen. And at this point, like, we don't loop Matt into anything. So I just felt like the editors were trying to make me think something, and I just still see that Haley's going. I wasn't able
Or
to.
wasn't it though? Wasn't it supposed to be a split and that Haley got to be the deciding vote in the split?
But that was just a story that George was saying.
Right, but if that was the case,
It's not really the
because it would have
case.
been
It's not an
Nina
accurate-
and Simon would be the two that would be out of that vote, and then it would be 2-2, and then Haley deciding. So if it would be 3, she's still thinking that it would be 2 and 2.
Yeah, she's thinking that because that's the story she's been told. But that's not actually how the votes are going to happen.
But if Nina is going to work with Haley, then that would be the information could potentially be correct.
If you took 1 vote out of 4, you still have 3 votes.
But Nina's vote was never part of the equation, right? Because Nina was who they were going to be voting for. So say like it was
No, the real vote. Are you talking about the real vote or the fake vote? The real vote.
the fake
Nina
vote was
in
supposed to be 2 and 3, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the fake vote. The fake vote. Yeah.
And so if it's 2 and 3 without Haley's vote would be 2 and 2, which means that she could do 3.
Right. But that's
with
all fake.
Nina, who was supposed to be the vote. So I think that the tension was supposed to be because Nina was going to be able to vote with Haley and Simon, making it a 3-2-2.
You have Liz, Jerry, and George
And
voting
Matt.
Haley out.
Oh, yeah. And then Matt and who's the other person?
Matt's voting Liz. So if you got Haley, Simon, and Nina, pulled Nina was 4th.
But
So
Nina was never
Nina
part
over.
of those numbers.
What do you mean Nina was
7.
never part of these numbers?
It was 7, right? Okay, so it wasn't supposed to be 2 and 2. So we have like Jerry and Matt, and then George and Liz, right? Who are each of them voting for? I don't remember right now.
No. So this, I think you may be thinking of the next episode. So this was Liz, Jerry, George, Nina. We're all on Haley. That's the real vote. They tell Matt to Liz. They tell Haley, Liz. They tell Matt and Haley a different story.
I get it, but I thought it was not 4. I thought it was 3-2.
Right. I think that's what the editors were like. Let's just hope that the audience thinks that the fake vote is the real vote or something, because it didn't actually give me any tension when I was like, but Haley has the wrong story. It's never going to work out.
I also have the wrong story because I don't remember them having 4 and 1 on Haley.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess like if Matt's the only person being left out, then yeah, that actually makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to keep talking about this, and we're going to walk around with like, Nina is looking for an idol and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, she's going to talk to Nina. George is going to have a conversation with Haley, though, before they go to tribal, which I think is the most interesting one.
I thought he was laying it on thick.
Yeah.
Thick.
He's dropping a lot of hints without saying it's you, Haley, but you're an unstable traitor.
Tonight is the turning point. And
Yeah.
they both have their guns aimed at each other, is what I was saying. Because they're both, it's like spy versus spy here between, or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, basically, both ready to strike at each other. I did think it was interesting, you know, the fact that like Haley didn't know that this was coming and George does at this point, but like they're both ready to fire. And I still was believing that maybe it was the 2-2. And so that maybe Nina would potentially flip. I wasn't sure if they just omitted some information there. So I thought I was still interested.
That's good.
Sorry.
I was just like, Boo, my girl's going.
Oh,
Tribal. All the charades. I don't even remember. Did someone say that, or we were actually doing charades? I don't know.
I didn't write it down, so I wrote
Okay.
down George to hash out all their grievances and stop Nina from finding an idol. That's all I wrote down for the beginning.
George also said, I wrote in quotes, you shouldn't hide in the shadows. And I was like, Haley,
Hint.
how are you not picking? Are you picking up on this? Like, that was my only thought, is like, is Haley picking up on any of this? Because like you said, he's laying it on thick. He's saying things that are her, but she's just not seeing it, I
Well, and
guess.
even when he says, like, I would be feeling so nervous when he was like, I think it was him that said, punishing people for going rogue. And he wants to be with people who, no, he wants to take out the silent threat. And I'm like,
Yes.
ah!
Yes. I'm like, these are not Nina. Like, what? Haley is like, Haley was making faces like, ooh, yikes. But clearly, I was hoping she was picking up that it was her, but
But how
clearly not.
could she have fixed it?
Yeah, that she didn't have an idol or anything. I don't know that there was anything she could do, but maybe she could have at least started talking back, of like saying things to him to make him change his mind or something. But yeah, I don't know that there was anything to do, but because they talk about alliances over friendships, and she disagrees with the way that he phrases it, which is fine. They both have different perspectives, but if she had had a clue it had to do with her, maybe she could have. I don't know. No, at this point she's a goner.
She definitely is a goner. It was really, really sad. Is even seeing George go up to the booth, because I don't think he really wanted to do this to Haley, but he says, "I want to take you to the final two, but now I will reign on this tribe alone."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's the right move for him, even though he wanted to sit next to her. Once he finds out that she's not completely loyal, it's the right move to do, to take her out for sure. We see him vote for Haley. We see Matt vote for Liz, which was what he was told to do. And then we see Simon vote for George. And I'm like, once again, Simon, you think you're in the loop, but you ain't in the
Well, and
loop.
then did Haley vote for Nina?
Hmm.
Okay. Because I guess she didn't know at all what was going on. Okay.
Yeah. Um,
But
she
so wait, so if Haley voted for Nina, then how did she think that she was going to have the numbers to take out George at all?
She clearly didn't. She clearly knew she didn't have Nina, you know? And so she goes with the plan
What,
that
to
George had
take out
given her.
Nina then, because she didn't have
Yeah.
the numbers to take out George. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
She thought that that was what they were doing, So she was like, if I don't have the numbers, if I don't have Nina, then I'm going to do the plan that everyone told her to do,
Right.
which was Nina. So yeah, so we see the vote for Liz. We see a vote for George, and someone even said, "Oh, Simon," like they knew.
But
Uh,
when Haley sees her name, she's like, "This is bad."
yeah.
She's new. It's just like,
That's the moment. Yeah, we see a Haley, then we see the Nina vote, but then it's Haley. And she completely was blindsided. She wasn't picking up on any of these hints that we were like, is she?
Haley,
Is she?
hello.
Maybe? No, she's all like, wow, I was blindsided, didn't see it happen. She's a good sport about it. She leaves, but it's like,
She's been a really good sport about it, and I think when you are that great of a player, you have to be blindsided like this in order for you to not to just to go out with your head held high, right? Like, I feel like if you were like scraping, like begging to stay in, and then you still go out, it just wouldn't be as good of a look. You know what I mean? Like, for your legacy,
oh
kind
yeah.
of. Like, the fact that she just got like just taken out, she missed it, and they had to do it this way. They had to work so hard to make sure she had no idea that it was coming. I think it just shows that how brilliant of a player she is, and so she took it really well, and I wasn't sure how well you were going to take it. So how are you doing?
No, I mean, I don't want to see Haley leave, but you have to take her out if you're anybody else in the game. So I get it. And I would much rather her be blindsided by George
Mm-hmm.
than have had Sean take her out
Oh,
early on, you know?
in the second episode, like,
No, yeah, I don't want that. And I'm glad that she feels like as a previous winner, she still went really far.
she says in her exit interviews that she's like, I thought I was going to be out first, and then the Survivor gods gifted me Rogue.
Yeah.
So Rogue being in the game allowed her to put some time in, put some work in. Also being on the Heroes tribe that was the most winning tribe was very helpful to her game as well. And so,
Mhm.
but she thanked first fourth that was Rogue.
Yeah, and she was funny with like on luckily on this tribe that won a lot, which did help protect her, but she was like going bonkers, not really being able to play, right? Like they're not going to tribal. They're not actually having to like backstab each other and form these new groups and stuff. So it was interesting to hear her kind of talk about that. But I do like some people have commented that maybe like I haven't been as supportive of her, which surprises me because I'm obsessed with Haley. But I do want to say, like, even though we didn't get to see a lot of Haley, especially early on being on that hero's tribe, I know that she was doing her subtle gameplay, her playing from the shadows just to stay in the game. Right? She
Mm-hmm.
wiggled her way in with Sean as he thought she was a shield for him. Like, I give her lots of credit,
Mm-hmm.
even if we didn't get to like see it all and talk about it all. I know that it was
Yeah,
happening. So
absolutely.
if anyone thinks that I'm like shading on Haley, I don't know.
No, Haley is still probably my top female player of all time. I think she still is there for me.
Yeah, I think she might be my favorite player of all time. Like I think about this regularly where I'm like, who else do I put up there with
I mean,
her?
I know you're not a fan, but obviously I put George ahead just because, like, that way that he gets out of certain situations,
Yeah.
I think is really shocking, and how he can think on the fly is just, uh, the it's just it's amazing to me. But I think so if we're just gonna do male and female, because I don't know if I can rank them together, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
she beat him on one game and he's beating her on another game, so
Yeah.
if we're just looking at their games, they're kind of equal. But
No, but I definitely think George is one of the greats. I definitely, absolutely. I just like Haley more anyway. Like even
that's
if it
fair.
was like different, like I like Simon. We like who we like, whatever. But gosh,
I'll
Haley
forgive you
is
for that one.
she's one of the greatest of all time. And so I just love watching her. I'm glad she was on this season and I'm glad she wasn't taken out early and we got to watch her. And yeah, absolutely. Good on George for taking her out. I'm still hoping someone takes him out. But actually, I don't know that that's true because I would also like to see if he can get votes. I would like
If
to see him sit at the end and just see if he can
which
win.
against Haley?
No,
Jordan Haley?
just in general, George. I want to see if he can win.
Well, it seems like he can, right?
He might.
Because if Haley is so afraid that she would lose against George, I think we talked about this before, but like she must be, her opinion is going to be influential, right?
Yeah.
Like, is she going to be like, he's played the best game, he's done this, and this? Like, even if Shawnee is bitter, she's going to be able to lay out some of the things that she did on their tribe. And I just, no matter what, just he's done stuff and more stuff than some of the other people have done. I do think that Simon is becoming competitive. Somebody in the chat was mentioning that in her jury villa stuff. She was saying that we were learning that the jury really loves Simon, and so like that would be really interesting, having Simon versus George at the end of this game. Like that actually right now might be, in my opinion, the most interesting final two, because what it could happen, and you'll be, I think, very happy if this is how it ended. But what if the jury is so bitter at George that the only way that Simon actually is able to slay the king is sitting in a final two scenario? Like that would be wildly epic, and I could see that happening.
Look, if Simon were sitting next to George, I would vote for George. And I don't want to vote for George, but he's way better at this game than Simon is. Yeah, I watched the Jury Villas, and Shawnee and Flick are championing and pushing for Simon. And I see that as anti-Georgeness, because I don't know that it's so much Simon. Come on, really? You're giving Simon credit? But I think it's that Simon represents anti-George. So I'm actually more worried about George now. Of course, they cut as soon as Haley, because Haley was about to step in and say, well,
Like,
now,
absolutely, you cannot.
yeah,
Yeah.
here's some information. And she's going to talk highly about George, and she's going to be realistic about Simon. So I think that Haley will have some sway, but I think Shawnee will as well. It will be interesting to see. Joseph, 100%. I was like so worried about Haley. And I
Oh,
thought,
right.
what if this is the moment they show us the sandwich bar
I forgot about that,
advantage?
and it
That was
didn't.
my only hope. I was like, she doesn't have an idol.
You're
Oh,
like,
wait,
she's too
maybe she
confident,
has that
maybe.
thing. Maybe the sandwich bar. Maybe?
Yeah,
Nope.
maybe that's why she's trying to pull in these numbers here, because she knows that she's getting votes, and then she can vote whoever she wants and win. Just needs 2 votes at that point. Yeah.
Haley says, God, I hope it's not exile, as she walked out. And I thought, that's hilarious. Please don't put her in exile as well. Let's move on to episode 20. We love you, Haley. Well done. Gotta move on. Okay. Day 40. Here we are. George is set up beautifully. He has his 2 final threes, Matt and Jerry, the Jacuzzi Alliance, Simon just floating around.
And it's a great position to be in if you're George. It's impressive that he's able to create this, and it seems like neither duo really knows about the other duo, which is surprising. But
Yeah, right.
he has 2 places to choose from, and I always say that the swing vote, you got to get rid of the swing vote, right? The 4 of you got to come together, or 5 including Simon, to take out the swing vote. But they don't see him as this as of yet.
Yeah, and I think I think you nailed it there, that they don't see the other alliance either. If you were in one of those alliances and you could see that your third is set up
Has a third.
perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to loop in that swing vote and get rid of that person. But they don't see it, right? So yeah, George is in a great position, and his little crews just don't fully realize what position they're in. Simon is going to just say, hey, anyone want to scoop me up?
It does not like Simon at all.
No. He's like, I can't wait to vote you out. Oh my God. He's like, maybe my stumbling isn't the worst strategy. I was like,
I mean, he's trying something here. He's saying that he's building a narrative, that he had no agency and no strategy, and that he was blindsided every time. And so look at how far he's come. And that resiliency, I think, is a very Capricorn style game.
yeah.
Is that I'm like, oh, I've been trying to get up this mountain and climbing, and I worked so hard, and look at all that I've done. And it's valid. But to me, it's not what I reward in these kind of type of games. But I can see him building this narrative, and some other Earth signs might find this valuable.
Right. If we hadn't seen him have just horrible gameplay, I might be able to support that, fight the uphill battle narrative, but we unfortunately have it paired with just absolute cluelessness. So that's tough. He's gonna fight though. He's gonna go down swinging, and that I at least respect that. He's gonna start with Matt, and then he's gonna start working on Jerry, and this is him just trying to be like, y'all are pawns. George is moving everyone around. And back to our conversation a little bit ago about this, this is accurate though. This is all true.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Matt and Jerry could be like, yeah, no, I have a fix for that. It's called me beating him at Final 4 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, but again, my perspective is Simon has to try something. And it's true. George is absolutely in charge of this game and has been for the most of it.
Mm-hmm. He knew what going on every single vote but one.
Yeah.
But like Matt is listening and then he just kind of walks off. And I do feel bad sometimes when like people just don't really give Simon a chance, really. But
Yeah.
I also understand, like, for instance, Nina's perspective, where she like has given him a bunch of chances, and then he
Mhm.
brings the wrong information, and then they get egg on their face, and then
Yes.
you try this again, and then you flip, and then you try this again.
Yes.
Like he actually would be very hard to work with, and so I do feel bad when Matt just like kind of walks away, but like also don't feel bad because he's not a great person to play this game with.
No, and also you can't get caught talking to him too much. I think
That's true.
Matt needs to walk away. Like
That's
he
true.
has to. He can't sit there and have an in-depth conversation with you because
Because it
George
looks
is
sketch.
watching.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you just got to keep walking and be like, cool, cool, cool. Maybe later we'll finish that conversation. Um, Simon would rather fight than be dictated to. Agreed. He calls Liz a pawn to her face and she walks off in anger.
It's not the way to make friends necessarily. It might make people upset, and they maybe they will change the way they're going to vote, but I don't know if it's going to make them work with you, Simon. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I just don't know if it's going to bring them into have like this nice group that's going to work together to take out George. Like, yes, it might cause some fractions within them, and maybe they will go and take out George, or they'll take you out and then take out George next. But like, I just didn't think that it was good for him being included in some of these chats.
But do you think that he was already going to be included in some of these chats?
Well, I feel like if he's trying, like I'm trying, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, but
Look, I think that yeah, he's past making friends. There's really nothing Simon can do
it's true.
except say, "Do y'all see that George is in charge and that George will win?" Because people like Liz don't see it. And she's just like, how dare you call me a pawn? She refuses to see it and she's going to storm off. I mean, she doesn't like Simon anyway. And so she's just taking offense to this. But like, she's the type of person who will win the last challenge and bring George to the end and think that she actually was in charge in some way. When no, you can't sit next to George and say that you were in charge. George was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Jerry is different. I think Jerry does see things and he's kind of like eye of the beholder here, mate. Which is true. Like, don't tell Jerry what he's doing. He knows. But I do think like it hits a chord here with Matt, and that's
It
why we
does. It
see him
does.
get a little emotional.
It does. I mean, nobody wants to be told that they're a pawn, and even though we see, oh, poor, depending on how this season finishes out, but if George ends up winning, and then hearing the confessional being like, "Of course, Matt's my pawn," I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, George."
exactly. Like it does stink. And I know like Matt made decisions to switch allegiances, to work with George. And I think these were all smart decisions, but did he run any of those votes? No.
No.
So if he cuts George at some point, then great. He can win. But if he thinks that he can sit next to George, that's a different story. And so I think, yeah, it's gonna hit you that you're just a little confused on where your game is at this point. What have you done? We get a cute little package here with his wife who's pregnant at this time back at home. He was left out of the Haley vote. Like, this isn't the
That
best
I
thing
was
he's
worried
ever been.
about
Yeah.
because, like, we didn't see them doing any sort of finessing as to why that happened. If it did happen, then we didn't see it. But I do think it could have been a misstep on such a loyal player, well, a loyal-ish player, to not be like, hey, like it was a last minute switch.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have a chance to tell you, but we had enough numbers to get that done.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, something. But also it was a slight misstep on his part not to say anything to his alliance, right? If there's other people there that had that information. And
Hmm.
so I don't know, you kind of don't want to get ahead of that kind of stuff, right? Like, you know that Nina's there and Nina is on the bottom, is going to potentially do or say whatever she can to stay in the game. So having this information from Haley potentially could be something that she uses. And so
Hmm.
if you are someone that's supposed to be working with George in that alliance, like, you think that you would maybe share that just so that you can get ahead of the story. So,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I wonder if he was saving it for something. I wonder why he.
yeah, I think I don't know. or
Yeah.
have a conversation with Nina. Like, what are we going to do with this information? I don't know, something, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a big contributing factor as to why he was left out of the vote. And we haven't seen why he didn't say anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Matt is going to touch base with Jerry and just sort of point out, like, I'm a little bit worried about this little group over here, which is good to see that you are seeing that other little group. And what could that other group be? We know it's the Jacuzzi Alliance, but Matt, Nina, and Simon, this is when Matt is like, I'm just thinking, don't throw me under the bus. I'm just thinking out loud. But
Nobody would suspect us working with Simon.
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
true.
Yeah. And of course, Simon's like, I just need a name. I just need a name. Don't worry about it. I'm on board.
Well, that's kind of what people should do, right? Make a plan and just tell Simon a name and just like, that's it. Like,
exactly.
But
okay, immunity challenge. We're going to stand on some pointy pegs. You get to hold one hand, but this does look uncomfortable here.
Uncomfy for sure.
15 minutes, they're going to switch their pegs, and George is not going to make the switch here. He's going to be the first to fall down. Then Nina just has to step down. She can't do it. At 45 minutes, they have to do the front peg and the back peg, which looks really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now, who were you thinking was going to win this? Did you have a thought?
Originally I thought it was going to be Liz because she's very petite. She's
Yeah.
good balance. I just felt as though she just doesn't have as much weight to be bearing on these spikes. But then again, she also doesn't have that much meat on her actual bones. And so it could be bone to bone and could hurt more quickly. So I originally thought it was going to be Liz though.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, I think Liz could do this well, but I've noticed that if it's one that you get uncomfortable, she doesn't. She does hit a limit of like discomfort. And so we do see that, but like she lasts 45 minutes, pretty darn good.
Yeah.
An hour and 20, Simon's gonna fall off. He's really trying to stay on. At this point, he really does have to kind of win out.
But then before that, though, Simon is encouraging Matt. And I'm like, you're calling out Matt here, who might be a bit of a double agent here. Like, if Matt is going to be working with you for this next vote, like, it has to be kind of quiet, or it's like George can come back in and rope him back in, or say something, or switch the vote. Like, why, Simon, are you encouraging Matt here to stay in the game? And then George sees it. And he's like, oh, I thought he was a pawn.
The same reason Simon ran to Sean when he won immunity a few weeks ago. Like, what? He doesn't think these things through. He just does not see game. I don't think at all.
I don't understand.
Yeah. It's Matt versus Jerry. It's very cute. Jerry's going to be like, hey, let's just go down to 1 foot so we don't have to do this forever.
Fair. I probably would say the same thing as well, because I'm sure Jerry is feeling confident with his position. Matt, maybe not so much, but Jerry probably doesn't mind if Matt wins over himself.
Yeah. And Matt was like, yeah, sure, cool. Let's do the hardest one, the back peg. And so they do. And Jerry is going to slip off, and Matt's going to take this one. Yay, Matt!
Go, Matt. Get some agency here.
Yes. I definitely am rooting for Matt to win some challenges here towards the end game. So let's see. At camp, Simon. Anyone want to tell me where to vote? George? No.
No, I'm good, thanks.
Nope. Good.
I was there. I thought it was in the last episode.
Yeah.
But it's like, man. Like, Simon. I feel bad, but I think that Simon's okay. Like, I'm just feeling bad for this character. He's fine.
He's fine. Let's see. George, Matt, and Jerry are going to talk. Okay, so this is George. Now George is splitting up his two sides.
Right.
He's going to say you can't rely on Nina. So they say George and Liz is going to vote Simon, Matt, and Jerry. You guys vote Nina.
Mm-hmm.
we'll do Simon on the revote. Sure.
Sounds good.
George then takes this to Liz and Nina. Flip it. We got to put one on Jerry.
Nina's going to put one on Jerry.
Okay. Then George is going to give Liz the real plan. So she's the one who knows what's really going on.
So wait, and then I wrote down Matt tells Simon he's thinking George.
Yes. So then Matt and Simon are now going to connect. And Matt is like, hey, I'm keen on voting George. And Simon's like, yeah, cheeky bastard. Let's get him.
But then he's like, is this the decoy plan? I'm like, oh, probably, Simon, probably.
This is the problem with Simon. Like you said, he's bumbled so many things that even when he means it, well, he usually does mean it. He doesn't mean to bumble things. But like, they're like, I can't trust Simon. I can't do a vote with Simon. He doesn't know what's going on. It's really difficult. And I give a lot of credit to George for that.
Yeah, I definitely do. It's funny and sad watching Simon bumble around strategically.
Yeah.
It's
I really
a
wish
strategic
that
game.
he and Haley could have made something work, but it was just too late. It's not going to work. Because at least she could then lead him. But no, he's such a lost puppy. So yeah, he's like, is this a decoy plan? But also, do I care? And that's a good point. Like, just write George's name down every single vote.
It's like, yeah, you know what? Actually, just try it.
Just do it every single time, and maybe one time it'll pay off.
Actually, do you know what though? That's actually true, because there's been times, but I think he's been in on the votes where there was ever a possibility of it being George. But like, that could be a good plan. Just being like, I'll write your name down every single time.
Especially if you're like, hey, anyone want to tell me where to vote? And George says no, then be like, all right, cool, I'll write your name down again. Like, all right.
And you know what though? That could be an interesting strategy, because if everybody knows that you're always going to write down George's name,
right?
They don't need to loop you in. They could make their own plan themselves and just use your guaranteed vote. And so that could have actually probably been a really good strategy, being like, you guys know where I'm voting. Anybody want to take me up on voting for George? You know that's where I'm voting.
If only
eventually someone's going to take him up on it.
Even say that. Like, that would have been half smart to just be like, you know what, guys, here on forward, just a good George vote. And if you want to jump on, go for it.
Yeah. George all the way.
All the way.
To the end, including winning this game if I'm in the jury.
So now we're going to go to Nina. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Nina's the last person who will trust a vote. I was like, flashbacks to Haley and Sean and Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Nina's not going to jump on this.
Nope.
Although she does have some valid points on why she doesn't trust Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Matt has been super loyal and not budging until this moment.
Well, and also not to trust Simon, because every time she works with Simon, she gets screwed over.
Yeah. And she's like, so I don't know about this.
I think it's Jerry.
So, okay. In front of Matt, because George is going to come up, and this is like one of their acting things.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah, no, he was just talking to me. So I just told him I'm going to vote Jerry. But Matt was not looped into that plan. So this changes things for George.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great. I mean, I guess I understand that Nina thought that Matt knew that the split was Jerry. I don't know why she would let that out. I'm not sure. Actually, talk me through it.
Well, I just don't think she was thinking George is pitting two sides against each other. Like, she doesn't have that information, right? If we're all following George like we do every vote, he told me to put a vote on Jerry, and I'm actually half covering this conversation, right? So I have to say, yeah, no, I just told him I'm going to do the Jerry vote because that's what you told me to do. So I think I'm covering myself, giving you information, not realizing that maybe Matt wasn't looped into that, right? She just didn't know who George had told this information. So this is interesting though, because Matt's like, I'm not gonna let my boy Jerry get out. Like, that's his final two.
Of course not.
But then George can now use this and be like, oh, Nina, can't trust her. See, told you guys. Nina's no good.
I don't know if Nina could have won in that situation. Maybe just being like, oh, I don't know yet.
Right. Yeah, she would have had to like not given information. She would have had to been just like, oh yeah, him just trying to get me to work with him. And I was just like, no, it's really all you can do.
I was just like, I mean, I don't think that she's completely in the wrong for this, but like, I just wish that she didn't have this blunder.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay, let's take it to tribal, guys. George has a path. Simon doesn't know what this path is.
It's no idea. Path to the Holy Land.
Path? What's a path? Huh? Nina says there's fog on her path. Matt's path has smoke and mirrors. And then we see a handshake between Nina and Simon. What?
I don't know why.
What is this, Nina?
It's mess. Like, I mean, I think she feels because when you know what you are doing in your heart, then you feel like everything that you're doing is still in integrity with what you are planning on doing. So she's planning on voting the way she said that she's voting with George, with the Jacuzzi Alliance, right? That's where she said that she's voting. So handshakes, winks, smiles to the jury mean nothing to her because she knows what she's doing. But she's not really taking into account what it could be perceived as it could be going on here. And that's something that she's not picked up on in many tribal councils. Being like, why is she smiling? Why is she letting it? Oh my God, they're going to know. Like, stop winking, stop grinning, stop. Like, she doesn't seem to know how to handle the perception of her in tribal council. And so I was just like, whoa, Nina.
Yeah, it's tough. I agree. I think that she's like, you told me to vote Jerry, George. That's what I'm doing. You know how Simon is. What out? Like, I think she thinks like, no, but we've talked about, body language and reading other people. And so like, I'm sorry, at tribal, if I see two people doing a handshake, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Especially when the numbers are this small and like any misstep could mean like that anybody goes home for the most part.
Yeah. Now, Matt, on the other hand, I think he handles these things a lot better. Like, he won't even give Simon eye contact half the time. He'll walk off past Simon. Like, I think, does a better job of that. And in these moments, there were like a couple whispers, but for the most part, Matt's just like, yada, yada, and like trying to get through it. But Simon's like, what are we doing? Matt, what are we doing? Are we voting? What are we doing? And Matt's like, shh, stop it. Stop it. But all of it's going to make George worried. And that's what it comes down to. George is going to get concerned. He's going to turn to Liz and say, I don't think we have Matt. Obviously, they can't vote him out. He's wearing the immunity necklace. So let's change our vote to Nina. What do you think about this moment?
I understood it. Because then they know where most likely 3 or 4 votes are going to be going. So, if they have their 2 votes on Nina now, and both Matt and Jerry are supposed to vote for Nina, if Matt doesn't, then that's fine. And then if Jerry doesn't, that's when they'd have a problem. But I think they're assuming that they'd have 3 votes for sure. And then it would be a 3-3 tie potentially. And then hopefully on a revote, it would be someone else. I was worried about this though, for the fact that like, if Nina, like, I just didn't want Nina to be telling the truth and it to all come back on George. What's the face?
I'm confused. So changing their vote from Simon to Nina would have given a split?
No, it was taking away the split, right? It would make it either, because it was going to be what, 2-2-2 in the end, or no, 1-2 or 3-3, or was it 2-2-2? I wrote down 2-2-2 at one point. I'm on the revote, and then it was it 3-3 in the end?
It should have been 2 votes on Simon,
2 votes on Nina, 2 votes on Jerry. No, or
I think there was only 1 vote on Jerry.
At one point, it was a 2-2-2, but anyways, and then Simon was going to be the revote. Anyways,
Right.
I was just thinking that they felt that they would, if say Nina switches to potentially George, right? So say it was now Simon, maybe
Right.
Matt
Right.
on George now,
Yeah.
right? And Nina is going to switch to George. That would be 3, and I think that if they switched it to be 3 on Nina, then they'd have a shot at a revote. So I think that they're just trying to cover their butt. And then if Matt was not doing that, they would have 4 votes to take out Nina. So I think he was just trying to protect in case he was going to be taken out by 2 people flipping on him.
Right. Yeah. If you truly think that people are flipping on you, it's a great idea. Absolutely. Let's throw all of our votes and make sure that they don't have enough to get me out. And in the moment, I was impressed that Liz was able to pivot and go along with the plan to make this switch. But I think this might have been George's first mistake.
I think it was a mistake. Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised that we finally got a mistake. We see Jerry vote for Nina, Neena. And then we see Nina vote for Jerry.
Well, GE. That's all we saw was GE. Right. And so it was to leave that. Did Nina vote for George or Jerry?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. I just was like, oh, she voted for Jerry. Because I'm like, she's not going to vote for George. Anyway, but I guess it was possible.
Well, I mean, with that handshake and then with it just and it's such a small vote and so easy to get your numbers together to take someone out. I think he was just he was just being safe. He got spooked.
Yeah. Yeah. No. This though, after the votes, this is when we're going to be told there's a twist. Okay. Jonathan, an Australian Survivor. Do we have to say it after the votes? Why not tell them before the votes?
I think it's do you think that they did it because of who was going home? Or that they would have done this to save George? Because a lot of people are thinking that it was to save George, but then George didn't get any votes in the end.
No, I think this is just one of those things. I mean, we're due for a twist in Australian Survivor, but I just find it interesting that they don't tell them before the vote. I don't really care either way, but it would have affected the votes. So here we are. George
100% would have voted to take because if. Yeah, I would have actually agree. I agree that I wish that they had told them beforehand because I like people able to plan and strategize with all the information.
Exactly.
Because I mean, this is going to put George in a very sticky situation. Maybe that's what the producers want, to see George try to get out of the mess that he's created for himself. But it would have, I think, for a viewer that likes to follow strategy, I thought it would be more interesting to see what they would have done in the moment. About this new strategy, who do we want to send on to exile or whatever it's called together.
Yeah, and maybe I wouldn't have, if I were George, and I know that I'm not leaving, even if they put votes on me, I'm not leaving. Then
I wouldn't have taken that risk.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to switch to take that risk to protect myself, because worst case, I go to this isolation thing. But anyway, so no one's going home, Jonathan says, but the 2 people with the highest votes are going to go to Survivor isolation. This is not a thing. You made this up. But they will be isolated. You could feed them maybe if you wanted to, but they will not get to play immunity. They will just come back next tribal.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, all the votes are going to be on Nina. Who else is going to go?
Yeah, well, the GE, which is Jerry,
just
in this
Jerry.
case.
Mm-hmm.
It would have, I guess, then have been Simon and Nina, which would have been great.
Which would have been way better for George if Simon and Nina were isolated. But here we are. We're going to get all votes for Nina, except for the last one is Jerry. And whoopsie daisy, we have kept Simon nice and safe. Not one vote for him.
Now, they didn't show the last vote, I believe. Did Simon vote for Nina?
Or are we missing a vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's 7 people.
I put 5 and 1.
1,
So
2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 Ninas and 1 Jerry
so
is
I
only
guess
6 people.
Simon voted for Nina.
But wait, don't we only have how many people do we
Well, there
have?
was only 6.
George,
Liz.
Matt and Jerry, Liz and Nina, and Simon. It's
Oh,
only
it's
6
7.
people.
6. Okay, sorry. I'm
Yeah.
like now I'm miscounting even though I counted correctly the first time. So yeah, so Simon must have voted for Nina.
Yeah. Yeah, because so what I'm assuming happened here is that Matt did not like that Nina said Jerry and was like,
Mm.
then I want Nina out. And he, I guess, looped Simon into that, or somehow Simon was looped into that because they both voted Nina out.
Now, we see in like the previews for the next episode that
Yes.
like obviously Nina is going to be telling Jerry that hey, like the plan was for us to vote you out. Now, I feel like it's obviously too good to be true for them to say this and then Jerry's going to turn and come back and retaliate and take George out of the game. I think that I just it's too obvious. So I'm wondering though if it will get spun that no, that's what Nina wanted to do and we didn't want that to happen. So that's why we came together to take out Nina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think what I've learned from Nina's gameplay is that revealing information is her strength. She's very good at being like, let
Gemini.
me just tell you. Like she has that kind of energy of like, no, I'm not hiding things. I am, it is what it is kind of energy. And so let me tell you, George told me to put a vote on you. And it doesn't have to make Jerry turn against George. It just has to be enough information, just like Matt has just a little bit of information that makes him not 100% trust George, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry just has a little bit to not 100% trust George. And so this kind of stuff just takes me back to that foreshadowing when they made their final 2. I just feel like these are the little things that add up where Matt and Jerry are like, we're going to take George out at some point. And
I mean, I definitely think that if they're in that position in a final 3 spot, they will take out George. Sorry.
That's why I just keep feeling like we're headed to a Matt and Jerry final 2.
Mm-hmm. I can see it.
Are we gonna have final 3 or final 2, guys? What is it?
We don't know.
Yeah.
If it's a final 3,
they have to get rid of them at 4.
Absolutely, but they won't know until they're at 3.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll try to do 4 anyway to be safe. I don't know. I mean, Nina's in such an interesting position because she technically has the Jacuzzi alliance, but she's not super loyal to that. She's been screwed
Well, she
over.
can't be now because they just voted against her, right?
Right.
But then also so did Simon. So at this point, everybody voted for her except for her.
Right.
So
what are you going to do?
I think that Jerry might just be like, I might hear that information, but be like, but we all came together to try and vote you out. So
yeah. I mean, Jerry's still in a better position than Nina. It's just an interesting mix. We got Simon stuck at camp with them. He was on the right side of the vote for the first time ever. Good job, Simon. And we've got Nina spilling secrets to Jerry. This is going to be very, very interesting, you guys. You and I are both down to 3 people. I have Matt, Jerry, and Simon, who I'm surprised to say I love. And you have Nina, George, and Liz.
I'm not surprised to say I love.
You're still very much ahead of me in points, 192 to my 153. Although Matt and Simon are like winning things, but I can't catch up. Wow. Let me see my Discord patrons. Amy is in the lead with 65 points. Christy and Carolyn are tied at 62 points. Ellen has 61 points. Shafika 47, Milo 48. Y'all are still close up there.
Anybody's game.
Anybody's game.
Well, between me and you, it's probably me.
Here's a question for you. Yeah.
Yes.
No, we've always thought it's you. So let's say it's a matter of bringing George to the end or not. We don't think Matt and Jerry want to bring George to the end. Is there anyone who will bring George to the end? in your mind?
Maybe Liz. Um, you kind of, as a original villain, minus Simon, I think you have to sit beside another villain to
Mm,
hope for a vote split,
mhm,
because I do think that it might be a little bit more difficult sitting against Nina. Like, I think Nina could get the votes, even if I didn't think she played the best game. I think that Liz sitting beside Nina, I think that Nina could easily get the votes, just for the fact that she worked with the majority of the heroes for longer in the game. And so I think that would be scary. It would be a little bit different between Matt and Jerry's, like sitting with against beside Liz, but I just feel like Liz might have a better shot. Like, she knows that she'd get like Shawnee's vote in that case. I think she'd even get Flick's vote sitting beside George. And
mhm,
like, I think, I think that Liz has the best shot sitting next to George, so getting some of the votes.
mm.
Um, so I think that Liz might take him.
I agree that Liz is the only one who would be willing to sit next to George, but I don't think that's a smart choice for her. I think she definitely beats Nina. She definitely beats
Definitely.
Simon. If she could suck it up and put up with Simon and drag him, well, he might beat her in a comp, but whatever. You sit next to him, I feel like Liz beats him. I don't know. You might have some good points with the hero villains lines, but I don't know. Like Liz was just in a better position most of
But
the
people could be
game.
like, "Oh, she was just, like, led to slaughter by George, and, like, she didn't
Yeah,
do anything in this game, and,
yeah,
Simon, look at all that he's done, like, he's been able to win all these competitions and blah, blah." Like, I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, like we talked about earlier, they're talking highly of Simon in the jury. Like this is bizarre.
Mhm.
I said he could win out all immunities and still lose in the end. I this is shocking.
Well, it's kind of like if you have too many brawn people, they don't reward a strategic game, so
Yeah.
that's kind of the heroes were kind of a brawny tribe.
Mhm.
And so majority heroes inside the jury, they might give it to Brawny Simon.
I wanted to
Yeah.
hear from Sam and Sean though, because they did not chime in on the love for Simon. So I don't know. It might just be Shawnee and Flick trying to get
I mean, they're probably
something started.
annoyed that he lasted longer than they did.
Yeah, right. They have
I
to
would
be.
be.
All right. Well, we've got 2 more weeks, you guys. So we're down to 2 episodes. So that means next week we'll be over on Reality Realness for 21 and 22. And then we'll be
Mhm.
wrapping it up the following week, y'all.
Boom.
Have
Boom.
fun.
I mean, however this play, I really hope that the foot stays on the gas, because like there has not really been a dud episode, and I really hope it just finishes strong for these last 4 episodes. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I've loved the season though. I didn't think I was gonna love a season more than I love Brain versus Brawn,
Mm,
and so far I do. And
yeah.
so it depends on how the season plays out, because one of the reasons why I love Brazen versus Brawn is it had the outcome and the final two that I thought was deserving all around. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons why I really loved that season.
So if Matt and
So
Jerry take him out, are you gonna not love this as much?
depending on who wins.
Yeah.
I think I would love it more if Jerry won. If Matt won, I don't know if I would love it as much.
Oh, I think I'm opposite. If Matt wins this, I'm okay.
Really? I just feel
Yeah.
like I-
I've
mm,
really loved his journey to becoming a villain.
mm.
He was fun. He started laughing in people's
That
faces.
was fun. That was fun. But I don't know. I don't give him as much credit for stuff. Yeah, the
Spirit?
vigilantes was good.
Huh.
I don't know. I just feel like maybe I'm just respect George's like or Jerry's more sly. Like
Mhm.
he made that decision earlier on in the game. Matt took a while to decide that he was going to work with George, and I thought that was a kind of a misstep in the very beginning. And so I just feel like Jerry had his eye on how to play for longer than Matt did, and
Mm.
I don't know.
Mhm.
I just feel more into Jerry's game than Matt's.
Yeah.
But if he convinces me, he can convince me. But
Right.
right now, that's how I feel.
Yeah. Definitely open to being convinced by either one of them. I mean, we know that George has been running this whole game, and he probably deserves to win this season. But those people often are taken out
It's
at
true.
Final Four.
Best player doesn't
So
always win. It's true.
no,
And
absolutely.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I really loved Brain versus Brawn, because I did feel like the best player won that
Yeah.
season, and it was cathartic. You know, it felt
Right.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if George wins, then it's like, yes, that makes sense. Absolutely.
And like, I'd probably cry with him a little bit because like he'd be doing it for his mom, and like I don't know. I think I would obviously feel great about that. Even if Liz won, I think I'd feel really strongly about that because she had to kind of go through that experience with losing Shawnee, but then having to decide to not react in an
Mhm.
emotional way that
Yep.
could ruin her game. So I do think that she was able to pivot, even though she's a stubborn Taurus.
I know,
She was
right?
able to be flexible here,
I give you
and
points for
still
that, Liz.
keep herself in the game. She's capable of winning stuff still. So I can see Liz. I could see Wiz winning, and I would feel satisfied with her winning a season that had returnees on it, and she was on the losingest tribe, you
Mhm.
know, and she was able to get to the end. I'd be happy with the Liz win as well. So I think my order would
Yeah.
be obviously George top, then Liz,
Then Jerry?
then I want to say Nina, but I want to say Nina, but I don't think I can. I think I'd have to say Jerry, Matt, Nina, Simon, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say Nina too, but she's gonna have to like do a bunch of stuff in the next 2 weeks.
I don't know what she can do.
She has
She's
to like,
trying, but I feel like she's going to be taken out next episode.
yeah, it's gonna be tough for her. Um, I can't believe they just lost the opportunity to have Simon not even play immunity. That's so bonkers. All right, we should wrap this up because in a half an hour, we have to watch Survivor
Survivor
44,
44.
you guys.
Woo.
And this week, Chantele and I are starting our ratings.
Ooh,
We're ready to start giving out dice.
nice.
So that is going to be on Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We just did daylight savings. So I don't know what that is for Australia, you guys. We have to double check that. But join us for that. All right.
Yay.
Anything else, Chantal?
No, this season has been a delight. I'm so happy to have it.
Such a delight. Oh,
Mhm.
one of the best seasons.
Like the fact that like we're stumbling on the strategy, like that's great. You know what I mean? We're like, wait, no, wasn't it? No, it has to be this. Like, wait, no, it was it this. Like, that's great.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's
George keeps
usually.
us on our toes.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys have a wonderful night. Bye.
Bye.